Warren Bishop fired me at 9:15 on a Thursday morning. By 9:40, I was in the parking garage, and I did something I hadn't done in 12 years. I opened a second phone, one he didn't know existed, one I'd been quietly building for 8 months, since the first time he made me feel disposable. Then I sat in my car, and I started making calls. Not to beg for my job, to collect on it. My name is Dell, and for 12 years I was the most powerful person at Bishop Meridian that no one ever noticed. Officially, executive assistant to the CEO. In reality, I was the operating system. Warren was the logo. I was the machine underneath that made the logo mean anything. He knew it, in the way you know your own heartbeat, which is to say, never, until something goes wrong with it. Here's what people misunderstand about a job like mine. They think proximity to power is the same as powerlessness. That the woman managing the great man's life must be small because she orbits someone large. They have it exactly backwards. I didn't orbit Warren. Warren orbited the systems I ran and mistook the center of my work for the center of himself. I should tell you what I actually knew, because she knew everything is easy to say and hard to feel until you see the shape of it. I knew Bishop Meridian's 3 biggest clients stayed not because of Warren, but because I remembered their kids' names and caught their problems before they became complaints. I had personally saved each of those accounts at least twice. None of them had ever met with Warren without me in the room, feeding him the names he'd forgotten. I knew about the auditor. There was a set of numbers, a consulting arrangement Warren ran through a shell vendor that would not survive a serious look. For 3 years, that auditor had been gently, repeatedly steered toward easier questions. I was the one who steered him. That was, technically, part of my job. Warren had asked me to manage the relationship and never once asked how. And I knew about the board. Specifically about Gerald Foss, who had wanted Warren's chair for 6 years and had been talked down every single quarter by me. Warren thought Gerald was loyal. Gerald was loyal to nothing but the absence of an opening. I was the one who kept the opening closed. 3 pressure points. I had my thumb on all 3. Warren had handed me each of them himself because holding dangerous things was beneath him and he had furniture for that. Now the 8 months. Because I want to be clear that this was not an impulse. This was built. The first time I understood Warren would eventually discard me was a budget meeting the previous spring, when he took a strategy I'd written, presented it as his own to the board. And when Gerald asked a sharp question about it, turned to me in front of everyone and said, "Dell, be a dear and get us coffee." Not because he needed coffee, because he needed to remind the room which of us mattered. I got the coffee. I smiled. And that afternoon, I opened a second phone, a second email, and a very quiet folder, and I began, slowly, to document not what would destroy Warren, I didn't need that, but simply how much of him was actually me. The list of everything I was holding. The map of every load-bearing wall with my name secretly written inside it. I wasn't building a weapon. Not yet. I was building an inventory. So that on the day he took it all back, I would know to the ounce exactly how much weight I was setting down and exactly where it would land. Then came Sienna and fresh eyes on operations, and the slow squeeze, and finally the glass conference room on Thursday morning, where Warren told me I'd been invaluable, past tense, and handed me a severance agreement built to purchase my silence. I read it more carefully than he expected. There was a non-disparagement clause, a confidentiality clause, all the usual instruments for keeping a discarded woman quiet. There was nothing, not one line, preventing me from simply going to work somewhere else, because it never occurred to Warren that I was worth poaching. You don't put a non-compete on the furniture. I signed every clause, gladly, because I had read what it forbade and, more importantly, what it did not. Then I went to the parking garage and opened the second phone. Call 1 to Marcus Reyes, who ran operations at Halbrook Freight, Bishop Meridian's single largest competitor. Marcus and I had known each other for years, professionally, The way two people who actually run things know each other over the heads of the men they run things for. I had turned down his overtures twice before out of loyalty to Warren. I was no longer feeling loyal. I told Marcus I was available. I told him I could bring an understanding of 3 particular clients that would be, let's say, unusually deep. I did not promise to bring the clients. That would have been a violation, and I don't violate things, I let them happen. I promised only to bring myself and my understanding. Marcus is not a stupid man. He understood the difference between what I said and what he heard. I had a contract by the end of the week and an office with a door. Call 2 was not a call. It was an absence of one. The auditor, the one I'd spent 3 years steering away from the numbers that couldn't survive him, had a standing quarterly check in that I had always managed. Rescheduled when the timing was dangerous. Redirected when his questions got warm. Softened, buffered, handled. The next check-in was in 3 weeks. For the first time in 3 years, no one rescheduled it. No one softened it. No one was there to be a dear and get everyone coffee and change the subject. I didn't send that auditor anything. I didn't have to. I simply removed the hand that had been holding him back and let a curious man walk toward the thing curiosity walks toward. Call 3 took the longest because Gerald Foss was careful. I met him in person, a coffee, a real one this time, poured by someone else. I told him truthfully that I'd left the company. I told him truthfully that I'd always respected his patience. And then I told him the one thing that changed everything, which was also, inconveniently for Warren, true. Gerald, for 6 years I'm the reason you never made your move. I kept talking you out of it every quarter because it was my job to protect him. It's not my job anymore. I just thought you should know that the thing that's been in your way isn't in your way anymore. I didn't tell him to do anything. I've never in my life told a powerful man what to do. You don't have to. You just remove the reason he wasn't already doing it. Gerald set down his coffee very slowly. I have rarely watched a man understand his own opportunity in real time. It's a remarkable thing to see. Then I did the hardest part, which was nothing. For 12 years, my entire nervous system had been wired to prevent exactly the disaster I had just set in motion. Every instinct I owned was screaming to call Warren, to fix it, to save him, because saving him was the deepest groove in my brain. In the first 2 weeks, I picked up my old phone 4 times out of pure reflex, thumb already moving toward his number, ready to put out fires I could see starting from a mile away. 4 times, I put it down, not out of cruelty, out of clarity. The fires weren't mine anymore. I had spent 12 years earning the right to warm my hands at exactly one of them. It took 4 months for all 3 to arrive at once, which, if I'd planned the timing, and I want to be honest that I mostly hadn't, was almost elegant. The auditor found the shell vendor. Gerald called an emergency board session with a coalition he'd apparently been quietly assembling for weeks the moment he realized his path was clear. And Halbrook Freight, my new employer, received inquiries from 3 unhappy clients who'd found their service at Bishop Meridian had gone strangely, coldly incompetent, as if the person who used to make them feel important had simply evaporated. I took those meetings personally. I was very warm. I remembered their kids' names. Here's the part that breaks from how these stories usually go. I didn't get a tearful phone call from a broken man at the end. Warren isn't built for tearful. What I got was better. Halbrook Freight and Bishop Meridian both had representatives at the same industry gala in October. I'd known that for weeks. I'd RSVP'd specifically because of it. By then the board had stripped Warren of operational control. He was still, technically, the founder. A ceremonial figure at his own funeral, wearing a very good suit. He saw me across the room. I watched him decide to come over, because Warren has never in his life been able to resist confronting a thing he doesn't understand. He walked up and he did the Warren thing, the warmth, the performance, the reading of the room that had always been mine to do for him. "Dell," he said, smiling, loud enough for the people near us. "I have to admit I'm impressed. You landed on your feet. though I hope Marcus knows what he's really getting, a wonderful assistant. He wanted me to flinch. He wanted, in front of witnesses, to make me small one more time, because making me small was the only power over me he had left, and he was desperate to feel it work. I let the room lean in. Then I said, at exactly the volume he'd used, "Warren, I'm not Marcus's assistant. I run his operations. The same operations I ran for you, the ones you called invaluable the morning you fired me. You were right, by the way. They were. You just never understood they were leaving the building with me." I let that sit for one full second, in a very quiet circle of very important people. "Take care of yourself," I said. "Nobody else is going to do it for you now." And then I walked away, not fast, not slow, and left him standing in the exact center of a room that had finally, all at once, understood which one of us had been the machine and which one had been the logo. Bishop Meridian was sold for parts by spring. Gerald got his chair, briefly, and then got the buyout. The auditor's findings became someone else's headline. Warren's name came off the tower. He is, last I heard, consulting, the word powerful men use when they mean unemployed and unaccustomed to it. I run operations at Halbrook. We took 2 of his 3 biggest clients cleanly because they followed the service, and the service was always me. I have a corner office and a door that closes and a name on the lobby directory that people now actually read. People ask if I feel guilty. I've noticed it's always people who have never been overlooked who ask. No, every wall I let fall was a wall Warren built crooked and handed me to hold straight. Every consequence had his fingerprints on it, not mine. I didn't lie, I didn't steal, I didn't forge or fabricate a thing. I did something far more dangerous and completely legal. I stopped protecting a man from the exact world he'd built, and I made sure I had a seat with a good view when it came to collect. There's a specific arrogance in a certain kind of man. He believes the quiet, competent woman beside him is quiet because she has nothing to say, and competent because serving him is the ceiling of her ambition. He cannot conceive that she is quiet because she is listening, and competent because she is keeping a record. Warren believed that about me for 12 years. And for 12 years, I let him because the belief was the most useful thing he ever gave me. It let me stand close enough to hold everything, which meant I stood close enough, on the day he finally let go, to decide exactly where it fell. He called me invaluable. I made sure it was the truest thing he ever said, and the most expensive. If this reached the right person tonight, you know who you are, the quiet one, the competent one, the one at the edge of the room they've stopped really looking at. Subscribe, tell me your story in the comments. I read every one. And remember, they only get to overlook you until the day you decide to let them find out what they were overlooking. Warren found out, in front of everyone. Make sure, when it's your turn, that you get to pick the room.